Stock Talk. This is your host, Scott. Hope you're having a good day in the market. The market's up pretty good right now. We're going to take a quick look at that here in just a second. Did try to put out a video last night, but had several issues, so was not able to put out a video. But I want to go ahead and talk about a little bit more strategy today. It's kind of a recap from another video I did, but did do a little adding to it, and just always good to have a refresher on strategy. And because I've had several questions here lately about, how do I go about this? Some people are getting started for the first time and asking questions like that. So I want to just talk about strategy, just a refresher, and again, some additions to that. So let's go ahead and take a look at the market, see what's going on there. Let me pull that up for us here. So you can see our portfolio here. What I'm seeing here is a lot of green. That's what we like to see, especially at the beginning of the week. See, the market up here is up 279 points. NASDAQ's up 112. S&P is up 35. So right now, as far as our big winner right now, let's go ahead and resort this here. Looks like ACB. Let's see here. ACB's up a good bit, and so is Novavax. Novavax up $1.40 right now. That's pretty good. We like that. And then we got X. Also, X doing pretty good today, up 4%, 27 cents. Just looking good across the board right now, and that's a good thing. You can see all the green. It started green. Some of them working their way to a couple of them working their way to the green. So that's all good. A good start. Let's see if we can get a glimpse at what's causing it. I did see this earlier. This home builders see sales jump as renters flee small urban apartments. So that's interesting to see that. And then it talks about college enrollment is likely to drop as schools consider staying closed to 2021. So a couple of interesting things there. But looks like the market's up, and that's good. We like that. So we'll take that start to the day, that start to the week. That's what we like to see. But let's talk a little bit about strategy. We did have video on this previously. This is the same presentation, but it's got a little bit more added to it. But I wanted to just do a refresher today on that. So let's talk about that. Let's go ahead and pull up our presentation here. First we talk about the first point of our strategy is to buy low, sell high. A lot of people do this. A lot of people say this, but very few actually do it. It's so easy to jump onto a stock when it's supposedly a hot stock and it's going up. You want to have a tendency sometimes to jump on that, but you want to make sure you're buying these things at the dip and not on the peak. There's a lot of, you'll see on these stock shows a lot of times they're talking about all these stocks that that they would buy and that kind of thing. But if you'll look at them, a lot of times they're at the 52-week high, and I just don't like to do that. Now, can they keep going? Yeah, they can keep going up, but I like to catch some that's getting beat up. I'm a contrarian, I guess is what they call that. But anyway, I would do that. I would look for a dip, buy low, and sell high. That's the point. Let's don't just say it. Let's do it. Okay, let's take a look at our next slide here. Next slide. Let's see here. My strategy may not be your strategy. Okay, my strategy may not be your strategy. Now that makes a lot of sense when you think about it. My strategy may not be your strategy. Why? Because I'm retired. I have no children at home. It's just me and my wife. You may be 30 years old, 35 years old. You've got 2 or 3 kids. Your wife may work. She may not work. You may work. So it makes sense that our strategies would not be the same. I may be more conservative than you, or you may be more conservative than me. So who knows? But that's something that everybody's is not the same. So keep that in mind, and it just makes sense that our strategies would not be the same. Mine would not be the same as yours. yours is not going to be the same as mine. Okay, so I can't answer the questions, what would you do, or how would you do this? And I can tell you what I do, but what I do does not necessarily reflect what you might do. Okay, so that's something we need to think about. All right, so the next slide, let's see. Next slide is know your stocks, don't listen to hot tips, do not trade on hot tips. All right, so this slide was in the first one. I kind of adapted this one here, added the do not trade on hot tips. Okay, so it's okay to get those hot tips, but what you want to do is once you get a hot tip from somebody that says this is a great stock, you ought to invest in this one, you want to add it to a watch list. You want to monitor that thing. You want to study it a little bit, check out financials, check out the volumes on the trade, take a look at the charts, look at the support levels, resistance levels, and you don't have to necessarily spend months of anything on this, but you want to make sure you know a little bit about that stock before you just go jumping in and taking somebody's word for it. So study it a little bit and get a good feel for it, get a good feel on the motion of the stock and what would be a good entry point and a good exit point. But nothing wrong with listening to somebody's tips. If you're listening to these stock shows, you may be getting some things from them as well, or somebody even at work or somebody in the family. But it's not a bad idea to study it and monitor it for a while before you do anything else. Let's go to the next slide. All right, so next slide is set your price, buy and sell, use limit trades. Set your price, buy and sell, use limit trades. I mean, there's a couple of things that we can control in the market, and these are them. Uh, you can control what you buy something at. You can control what you sell something at. So that's something that we actually have control of. The rest of the market, it's kind of up and down. It's out of our control. So why not control the two things that we can control, and that's the buy point and the sell point. So that's something we want to keep in mind when we're doing this. Control what you can control, and be educated on the things that you can't control, but be ready for the things that you can't control. Okay, so that's something we want to keep in mind. Next slide is, you've heard me say this many a times, don't be greedy. Pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered, and pocket money. All right, don't be greedy. Pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered, and pocket money. That's the two things that I like to keep separate in my mind when I'm doing this is the portfolio balance that goes up and down all the time. You can see it's up and down today. And then pocketing money. That's when I make these trades and I actually pocket some money, because something my dad used to tell me all the time: you don't make a dime till you sell something. You don't lose a dime till you sell something. So I like to pocket money. I like to make that dime. But you cannot be greedy. Now, if you got more time, like I said, I'm retired, so you may have 20 years before you have to do anything with these stocks. So you can leave them out there and let, hopefully it keeps it running up. But I've seen too many of these things. They run up and then the next thing you know, they're falling back down. So I just like to take the money and not get greedy. I've done many sales. You've seen some examples that where I buy something and it keeps going. Novavax being one of them. The other day, we sold that thing, sold out of it, except for the cash account. I think the last sale we made was $20, and the next day it ran up to 26 something. I think it was. But now, as of Friday, you could have got in at that at 19 something, I believe it was, or 18 something, and here we are back up $1 a day. So these things go up and down, and you're going to have opportunities to get back in. Maybe not always at the same price that you sold at. You might have to buy in at a higher price, but what does it matter, the starting price versus, whether if you still think it's going to go up some more and it goes up another 6%, then you made another 6% on your money. You may not have made another 8%, but you were out long enough to make sure that the drop was not coming, or the drop did come, and you actually did even better. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're not being greedy. Okay, let's look at the next slide. Set goals weekly, monthly, and yearly. Set your goals. I always want to have a goal of some sort. You need to kind of keep a track of how you're doing. You do it with everything else in life, so we ought to do it with our money for sure. I like to have those weekly goals and monthly goals and yearly goals, so I can keep my perspective when things are going down, when things are going up. You can always go back to a certain point in time and kind of see, okay, well, I had a bad week, but this month I'm doing pretty good, or I've had a bad month, this quarter I'm doing pretty good. So I like to kind of look and over the history of how my portfolio is going over the years, and just me being retired, there's a certain amount of money I want to have in that account, those accounts at the end of the year, to know that I'm on my 30-year plan still. I've got a calculator that kind of shows me how much money that I can spend out of my accounts in order for that money to last 30 years. So that's kind of what I keep an eye on. So you want to do that. You want to set those goals and make sure you're maintaining those goals. Okay. All right. Next slide. Let's go there. Don't chase, don't panic. This is a good one. Don't chase, don't panic. We see this all the time with people who want to chase a stock that's gone up like crazy. Used to have a guy at work that did this. And it seems like every time he'd get a stock, it'd be on its way up. He'd jump on that and think he had made a great trade, and the next thing you know, the stock's dropping, and what does he do? He panics and he sells for a loss. So he's buying high and selling low. That goes all against our strategy, and that should be going against anybody's strategy. Not just stocks. You want to market as well. When the market's going up like crazy, a lot of times you've missed the boat, and you want to be careful and wait for a dip of some sort, or some kind of plateau in the market. And just the same with stocks. Treat it the same. All right. So don't chase and don't panic. All right. Next slide. All right. Next slide. Be flexible. Adjust accordingly. Be flexible. Adjust accordingly. That makes sense. The market is flexible. It's changing all the time. So it only makes sense that we have to do the same thing. We have to, we got to be willing to change our entry price. We got to be willing to change our exit price. We got to be willing to change what stocks we're going to buy, and when we're going to buy them. So that's something that we've got to do. We got to stay flexible ourselves, because the market's changing as well. That just makes sense. All right. Next slide. Monitor your stocks and monitor your results, and then compare those to your goals. Monitor your stocks and monitor your results and compare those to your goals. Again, that's kind of like I was talking about before. First of all, monitor stocks. You need to know what's going on with your stocks. Now, I'm retired, so I can look at my stocks just like I did a while ago. During the day, anytime, because most of the time I can do what I want. I'm at home. All right. I know some of you work, and so you're at work and you can't be looking at your computer screen all the time at your stocks. You get in trouble for that. But you want to monitor them from time to time, just to kind of get an idea what they are doing. Now, whether that's weekly or what, but you want to try to take a peek at them. I would suggest loading the Yahoo app on your phone and or CNBC app on your phone and just kind of monitor it that way at lunch, or you can do it once a day sometime when the things settle down, the kids are in bed or whatever. Just kind of take a peek at your stocks and just see where they're at. You want to see if there's anything major going on with them, and then just adjust accordingly if you need to. But something you want to do is just keep an eye on them. I like to watch the volumes. I like to watch the news on them. I like to even read the message boards. Now there's a lot of junk on those message boards, but sometimes there's people that do know what they're talking about. So I just like to know what other people are thinking sometimes, but most of the time it's just a bunch of garbage on those message boards. Monitor your results, compare it to your goals. That's like I was talking about before. Give yourself a proper perspective of what's going on, and as far as your investments go, how you're doing compared to what your goals you set, and it will just help you to look at how you're doing weekly. What I do is I actually at the end of the week I capture my balances and put them on a little spreadsheet and kind of keep up with that, where I'm at each week. That way I can look. If I've had a bad week, I can go back and say, okay, when was I at this level before? How far back? Like if I go back and I say, well, in March I was at this level, or I'm ahead of March where I was, so I'm okay. It's a bad week, but I'm ahead of March. So that's kind of what I do. Okay. All right. So let's look at the next slide. Next slide is diversify your stocks, diversify sectors, diversify risk. Everybody knows that you don't need to put everything in one stock. We all know that. Diversify. We've all heard about it. Don't put it all in one stock. That makes sense. But we don't want to put it all in one sector either. You want to make sure you're in different sectors, and you can put it in pharmaceuticals. You can put it in retail. You can put it in technology. There's all kinds of sectors. I think there's like 13 of them. So you want to break that out a little bit. And risk. What do we mean by diversifying our risk? Well, you got stocks that are blue chips, low risk blue chips. You want to be in some of those. Maybe some medium risk type things, like Cliff that we have. And then you got these high risk things like Novavax. Pharmaceuticals are all pretty much high risk, a lot of them, as far as they go up and down like crazy based off of news a lot of times. But you don't want to have it all in high risk. Now, if you're younger, can probably have more high risk than I can, or your average retired person could. I'm a little bit more aggressive than most retired, so but you want to spread that out. Some risky stocks, because that's how you make money. The more risk, the more reward a lot of times, in different sectors and different stocks. So just kind of diversify all the way around. So let's take a look at the next slide. Next slide is keep some dry powder. Cash is king. Save it for a rainy day. Dry powder, you'll hear that a lot on these stock shows. They say we got some dry powder. I like to keep some cash. For example, when this big dip hit, I was 30-40% cash. So that's good when the terrible dip happens. Now you got people will say something like, well, you got a lot of cash, it's not making a lot of money. Well, it's not losing anything either. But me being retired, I like to have a certain amount of cash on the sideline. I like to keep it like a year's worth of cash on the side so I don't have to worry about a market dip. Just like when this dip happened, I wasn't worried about it because I had plenty of cash to live off of. And so that's the way I do that. Your cash levels may be different, but I always like to have cash handy when this market dips. You heard me talking about getting cash on the sideline, and that's what I'm doing. Is when I'm anticipating a dip of some sort, then I will try to build up my cash positions, and that gives you a great opportunity to buy when something dips. Okay, So let's take a look at the next slide. Last slide. So keep a proper perspective and have fun. Keep a proper perspective and have fun. We talked about this many a times. This to me is a hobby. This is fun. I've done it for 21 years. I can go to bed at night. I can sleep. I don't sit here and worry about this stuff. And so if you can't get to that point where you can not worry about this stuff, you probably need to find you a different hobby. Okay. It does get, a little nerve-wracking sometimes when you see your portfolio going down, but you gotta have the right mindset to not let that bother you. All right, so the way I do that is keeping that proper perspective. Again, I'm looking at if I have a bad week, I go back and look at a month. If I had a bad month, I go back and look at a quarter. If I had a bad quarter, I go back and look at a year. I do what I got to do to keep a proper perspective. All right, so it's all relative. Again, that's another video, but it's all relative to a point in time. So you want to make sure you keep that proper perspective. You want to make sure that you can have fun at this. Don't risk money that you can't afford to lose. That's key. Now, I'm risking. I'm not. Risk is a tough word. I'm investing, our life savings. So I can't afford to lose that. But when you invest, you can lose the money. All right. So you've got to invest wisely, and all the strategy that we just talked about helps you do that. And so keep that in mind. You wanna make sure that you're investing with a good strategy, and that's the main thing. Have yourself a strategy, monitor your work, and have fun. Okay. All right. Well, I hope you're having a good day. I hope this video works out, and I'll try to get it out here soon. Do apologize for not getting it out last night, but continue to have a great day in the market. Not going to be buying anything today with the market up like it is, but I will be possibly selling some things if it gets up high enough. I'm looking at some that are in the 4% range, so already, but I kind of want to make sure I get go ahead and get to 6% on these while we got an opportunity. This market's looking pretty good. All right, well, have a great day, and we'll talk to you probably sometime Tuesday night. Thanks. We'll talk to you then. Bye.